The California sun was already beating down on the LAX asphalt at 7 in the morning when Lucas Morales swiped his badge at the employee entrance of Terminal 4. The constant noise of baggage carousels mixed with the incessant murmur of announcements in various languages, creating that chaotic symphony he had come to know well after 8 months working there. "Morales, you're covering Sector B today. United flight just landed and 3 more arrivals coming in the next 40 minutes, shouted Ray, the shift supervisor, a middle-aged man with permanent dark circles under his eyes and little patience. Lucas adjusted his navy blue uniform that already showed signs of wear at the elbows. The soles of his work sneakers were almost smooth, but they would have to last a few more weeks. His salary would only allow for a replacement after the next paycheck, and that's if he managed to balance his college bills. "Got it," he replied, moving quickly to his position. While stacking luggage of various sizes onto the baggage cart, Lucas made mental calculations. His USC tuition payments were 2 weeks overdue. The film department demanded excellence and exorbitant costs in the same package. The rent for his shared apartment in Koreatown, split with 3 other students, was due in 3 days. Life in Los Angeles was a constant exercise in financial survival. "Hey, handle that Louis Vuitton bag carefully," requested a well-dressed woman with a New York accent. "It cost more than your annual salary." Lucas smiled politely, as he had learned in training. He swallowed the sharp response he had on the tip of his tongue. He needed this job more than he needed the brief pleasure of a clever comeback. The clock showed 10:27 when he noticed unusual movement near the international arrivals area. A small group of people was forming quickly, cell phones raised, voices elevated. At the center of the commotion, a man was trying to maintain his composure while being surrounded by increasingly enthusiastic fans. "Oh my God, that's Denzel Washington," whispered a co-worker passing by with an empty cart. Lucas observed the scene unfolding. The actor, wearing a discreet cap and dark sunglasses, clearly didn't want attention. His security guard seemed overwhelmed, trying to create a perimeter while more people approached. The situation was worsening by the second. "Morales, those bags from Flight 1457 aren't going to load themselves." Ray's voice cut through his thoughts. "Leave the celebrities to the paparazzi and do your job." Lucas automatically returned to the conveyor belt, but his eyes kept going back to the scene. Washington now looked genuinely uncomfortable. 2 teenagers had blocked his path for unsolicited selfies, while a small crowd was already forming around him. The classic domino effect of celebrities in public places. That's when Lucas noticed something in the actor's gaze. It wasn't arrogance or irritation. It was a mix of resignation and a silent plea. Lucas knew about that service corridor that went around the entire terminal to a discreet exit, mainly used by employees, close to the VIP parking area. His body moved before his mind could fully evaluate the consequences. He put down the bags he was holding, ignored Ray's furious look, and walked determinedly toward the commotion. "Mr. Washington," Lucas said quietly as he approached the security guard, "I can show you an alternative exit away from the crowd." The security guard, a tall man with an earpiece and tense expression, looked at him suspiciously. "I'm an airport employee." Lucas quickly showed his badge. "There's a service corridor that leads directly to the VIP parking lot. No fans, no cameras." Washington exchanged a brief look with his security guard, who nodded discreetly. "I would appreciate that," the actor replied in that unmistakable voice, now in a low tone. Lucas moved naturally, as if he were just performing an official task. He motioned for them to follow him to a gray door with the sign, "Authorized personnel only." He swiped his badge on the electronic reader, revealing a well-lit but austere corridor. "This way, sir." This corridor goes around the entire terminal. It's about 3 minutes to the side exit. As they walked hurriedly down the empty corridor, Lucas felt his heart racing. He was violating at least 2 company policies, leaving his post without authorization and allowing non-employees to use restricted areas. But something about the situation seemed to justify the risk. "Are you a student?" Washington suddenly asked as they walked. Lucas looked at him, surprised. "Yes, sir. Film at USC. 3rd year." A small smile appeared on the actor's face. "Film? Interesting. And you work here to pay for your studies?" "I try at least," Lucas replied with a slight smile. Los Angeles doesn't make it easy for anyone. When they reached the exit door that led to a discreet area of the parking lot, Lucas checked through the small window to make sure no one was waiting outside. "All clear. Is your car waiting?" The security guard nodded, already on the phone. "Parking B, Sector 4. 2 minutes." Washington extended his hand to Lucas. "Thank you. Not everyone would do this." Lucas shook the actor's hand, feeling a mix of pride and nervousness. "It was my pleasure to help, sir." "Really?" When the black SUV arrived and Washington quickly got in, Lucas watched the vehicle drive away, a feeling of satisfaction warming his chest. He returned through the same corridors, trying to formulate an excuse for his absence. Upon returning to the terminal, his heart sank. Ray was standing exactly where he had left him, arms crossed and furious expression. Next to him, the airport security manager was holding a tablet showing security camera footage. "Administration room. Now," was all Ray said in a dangerously calm voice. As Lucas followed the 2 men through the familiar corridors of the airport, he was certain of one thing. He had just made the mistake that could cost him his future. The administration room of Terminal 4 was an impersonal gray cube, with a conference table in the center and framed certifications on the walls. Lucas sat in one of the rigid plastic chairs, his hands slightly trembling on his knees. The cold air conditioning contrasted with the cold sweat running down his neck. Ray remained standing, flipping through a folder with forms while the security manager, a man named Gaines, positioned his tablet on the table. "Morales," Ray began, without sitting down. "Are you familiar with Protocol 27B in the Employee Handbook?" Lucas swallowed hard. "It's the protocol about abandoning your work post without authorization." "Exactly. And Protocol 15A. Unauthorized access to restricted areas," Lucas replied, his voice lower. Gaines rotated the tablet, clearly showing the security camera footage. Lucas saw himself escorting Denzel Washington and his security guard through the restricted corridor. The recording was clear, leaving no room for excuses or denials. "Understand something," said Gaines, leaning over the table. "This airport is a federal security facility. Each protocol violation is not just a disciplinary matter, but potentially a national security issue. I was just trying to help someone who needed. Your job is not to decide who needs special help," Ray interrupted, his face reddening. "Your job is to load luggage from point A to point B following exactly the protocols you were trained for." Lucas tried to explain. It was Denzel Washington. He was practically being surrounded by fans. "I just thought. This airport serves celebrities every day," Gaines cut in. "We have specific procedures for that. If every employee decided to improvise solutions, we would have chaos." Ray finally sat down, placing a form in front of Lucas. It was a contract termination notice, already filled out with his name and information. "Your contract is terminated for cause, effective immediately," Ray said without emotion in his voice. "You will receive your days worked until today in the next payment cycle. Return your badge and uniform before leaving." The world seemed to freeze around Lucas. 8 months of hard work, arriving before dawn, leaving after sunset, balancing shifts with classes and academic assignments, all ended in a 5-minute meeting. "Can I at least explain my side?" Lucas tried, although he knew it was futile. "There is no your side in this situation, Morales," Gaines responded. The cameras show everything we need to know. You abandoned your unauthorized post, took civilians into restricted areas, and compromised security protocols. Under other circumstances, we could be having this conversation with federal agents present. Lucas felt the weight of those words. Deep down, he knew they were right. He had broken important rules, even if for reasons he considered noble. "I understand," he finally said, taking the pen offered by Ray to sign the dismissal document. His signature seemed strange to him at that moment. The shaky lines forming the name his mother had chosen so carefully, in honor of the grandfather who had crossed the border decades earlier seeking a better life. A name that was now signing his own defeat. 40 minutes later, Lucas was leaving through the same side door where he had escorted Washington earlier, now carrying a plastic bag with his belongings from the locker. His folded uniform had been returned, and his badge, cut in half, rested on Ray's desk. The California sun, merciless as always, greeted him with blinding brightness. Lucas adjusted his sunglasses and began walking toward the bus stop. The cell phone in his pocket weighed like lead. He would have to call his mother in San Diego and explain that he had lost his job, especially since she was so proud of her son at USC, the first in the family to attend a university. The apartment in Koreatown seemed even more depressing when Lucas arrived. He mentally thanked the fact that his roommates were out. Miguel at work in the cafeteria, Jade at her photography classes, and Trevor probably at some casting call. At least he wouldn't have to explain his presence at home in the middle of a workday. He sat at the small desk in the corner of the room he shared with Miguel, staring at the aging laptop where he edited his film projects. On the wall above, a framed poster of Training Day, ironically, one of Washington's most famous films, observed him with indifference. Lucas opened his banking app. His balance was $347.52. The rent was due in 3 days, $625 for his share. The overdue college tuition totaled almost $3,000. And now, no income. "Brilliant move, Lucas," he muttered to himself, taking off his shoes and lying down on the narrow bed. He mentally examined his options. He could borrow money from his mother, but she already worked 2 jobs to help with what she could. Perhaps he could request a tuition deferment based on financial hardship, but that would only push the problem forward. Finding another job would take time he didn't have. His cell phone vibrated. A message from Miguel. "Hey man, everything okay? I saw you posted something about a complicated day earlier." Lucas didn't even remember posting anything on social media. Probably an automatic reflex amid the crisis. He didn't respond. What explanation would he give? "I lost my job because I helped Denzel Washington escape from fans." It sounded ridiculous even to himself. The following hours passed in a blur of anxiety and desperate planning. Lucas updated his resume, scoured job sites, and submitted applications for any remotely viable vacancy within the Los Angeles perimeter. Waiter, barista, delivery driver, production assistant, receptionist. Anything would do at this point. When his apartment mates started arriving, Lucas forced himself to appear normal, vaguely mentioning that he had a shift change and would be off today. The lie made him nauseous, but the truth would give him panic. It was past midnight when he finally managed to fall asleep, after hours of staring at the peeling ceiling. His last coherent thought was an image of that brief moment when Denzel Washington shook his hand and thanked him. At least no one could take that away from him. The alarm went off at 6:30 the next morning, a habit Lucas didn't have the energy to deactivate. For a confused moment between sleep and wakefulness, he mentally prepared for another day at the airport, until reality hit him like a punch to the stomach. He was unemployed. He forced himself to get up anyway. He couldn't afford to waste an entire day. He needed to go to campus, talk to the office about his options for the overdue tuition, maybe check for job openings on the university's job board. He was in the shower when his cell phone started ringing insistently. He ignored it the first few times, probably some carrier offering plans. On the fourth consecutive call, he wrapped himself in a towel and answered without checking the number. "Hello? I'm trying to reach Lucas Morales?" asked a female voice, professional and direct. "This is he. Mr. Morales, my name is Vanessa Carter. I'm the executive assistant to Mr. Denzel Washington." Lucas almost dropped the phone, his hand suddenly damp. How did you get my number?" There was a small pause. "Mr. Washington is quite persistent when he wants something. We discovered your full name through the badge visible on the airport security cameras. The rest was just a few phone calls." Lucas sat on the edge of the bed, the water from his hair dripping onto his bare shoulders. "I see. Mr. Washington would like to speak with you personally. We learned about the incident after your help yesterday." "Incident? You mean my dismissal?" Lucas couldn't hide the bitterness in his voice. "Exactly. Mr. Washington feels partially responsible and would like to discuss some possibilities with you. Would it be possible for you to come to his production company office today at 11 o'clock? Lucas looked at the digital clock beside the bed. 7:15. "Yes, that's possible." "Great. I'll send a car to pick you up. Can you confirm your address?" After providing the details and ending the call, Lucas remained sitting on the bed for long minutes, trying to process what had just happened. Denzel Washington wanted to see him, personally, today, as he dressed in the best he had, a light blue shirt ironed the night before for an interview that never happened and dark jeans without wear marks. He tried to control his expectations. The actor probably just wanted to formally thank him and perhaps offer some symbolic compensation. A letter of recommendation, maybe? Or worse, just an apology and a few dollars for lunch. At 10:30, as promised, a black town car parked in front of the worn building where Lucas lived. The driver, a middle-aged man with a professional posture, confirmed his name and opened the rear door. "Where are we going exactly?" Lucas asked as he watched his familiar neighborhood disappear in the window. "Mundy Lane Entertainment offices in Beverly Hills," replied the driver. "Mr. Washington's production company." Lucas nodded silently, his reflection in the tinted glass showing a 19-year-old young man desperately trying to appear composed, while his entire world swayed in uncertainty. The meeting with Denzel Washington changed Lucas's life trajectory in ways he could never have imagined. In the sleek conference room of Mundy Lane Entertainment, the actor didn't just offer empty sympathies about Lucas's dismissal. He presented him with a full scholarship to complete his film studies at USC and a paid internship at his production company that aligned perfectly with his class schedule. "What you did at the airport showed character and quick thinking. Exactly what this industry needs," Washington told him, his iconic voice carrying the weight of decades of experience. "Sometimes the right decision doesn't look right on paper, but that doesn't make it wrong." As they shook hands to seal the arrangement, Lucas felt the burden of uncertainty lifting from his shoulders. His impulsive act of kindness, which had seemed like career suicide just 24 hours earlier, had unexpectedly opened a door into the industry he had always dreamed of entering. 6 months later, Lucas sat in the editing bay at Mundy Lane, fine-tuning footage for Washington's upcoming directorial project, his temporary position having evolved into a valued role on the production team. The irony wasn't lost on him that his lowest professional moment had become the catalyst for his greatest opportunity, and he often reflected on the lesson he'd learned that day at LAX. That integrity and compassion, even when they come at a personal cost, have a way of completing their own circle in time. When newer interns asked him how he'd landed such a coveted position straight out of college, he would smile and say simply, "I helped someone who needed it without expecting anything in return." A philosophy that would guide his rising career in Hollywood far beyond this unexpected second chance.